Howdy, my name is Olivia, and welcome to my 18th. Okay, thank you. Howdy, my name is Olivia, and welcome to my 18th. I'm sorry, have I ever said that word before in my life? $1,800. Howdy, my name is Olivia, and welcome to my $1,800 studio apartment in Manhattan, New York. I do want to apologize for all the construction noise. They are working on the upstairs part of the building right now, and so there's constant construction noise. But it reminds me where I am, and that is all I need.
Welcome to New York.
Welcome to New York. So it's fine. But just, yeah, I'm not actively like passing gas. It's the workers.
Sure. Yeah. Now all of a sudden it stops when you're
right. Hi again, howdy. My name is Olivia Swayze. I'm an actor based in New York City. I'm from Texas. Yeah. And I just moved in January, and I'm really enjoying exploring the city. I grew up in Texas and Houston, so I'm used to the big city vibe, but I mean, moving to New York is different than living anywhere else in the world, I assume. I haven't lived that many places, but you know, I assume as much. And I've really, enjoyed getting to know the art scene here and getting to meet all these different people. And growing up in a house of artists, both my parents, my dad's an actor and my mom's a stage manager, so very theatrical family. Yes. Our fights are crazy. Like, our family fights are insane. The drama is heavy. But yeah, coming from a family of artists and then moving into a city of artists, I feel very welcome and very much like this is an extension of, my home, exactly.
Yeah. Why did you move to New York?
Yeah, well, I grew up in Houston. I lived there my whole life. I went to the same school my whole life, and then I went to college in Houston. I grew up in the same house my whole life, so it was a lot of same. Mm-hmm. And I love Houston. I'm a very big fan of Texas. Yeah. And so it was kind of a difficult decision for me to leave, but a couple years after I graduated college, I just kind of felt that the industry in Houston, although very rich and full and diverse, I just kind of wanted to explore options beyond that. Mm-hmm. And I just kind of wanted to test myself as well. It was really a personal measure up sort of challenge. I just wanted to see if I could make it elsewhere. Yeah. And I heard they do theater up here in New York, so I thought I would come up and check out the scene and see if I really was worth my salt. And so I decided to move based on the art scene, and also I couldn't decide where I wanted to go at first. Mm-hmm. And when the opportunity arose for me to move to New York, I was like, well, I mean, it wasn't in my plan, but I'm not going to regret the year I lived in New York. You know what I mean?
And you made it on stage within your first 6 months of living here.
I know. It feels great. I'm really happy for all the opportunities that are up here. And I know that it will be much longer than a year, no doubt. I feel very planted and very at home here. So
you'll only leave for special projects.
Only for special projects.
So her inbox is open,
Yes. And if anyone wants to take me on their private jet, that counts as a special project.
That's great.
What? They're coming down.
It's perfect timing. They want to be in the video.
They do. Sometimes we talk to each other.
Everybody in New York's a star.
Yeah, it's true. Everybody is an actor. Everyone's pursuing a career. Mm-hmm. That is definitely one of the things I've learned is that I thought it was very quirky of me to be an actor in Houston. If I would go out to a bar, and somebody would be like, what do you do? I'm like, I'm an actor. How zany. Here it's I'm an actor, and everyone else is like, yeah, me too. Yeah. What else do you do? And I'm like, oh, okay. So I'm not as individualized as I thought I was. But I think one thing that's really special that I've learned while I've been here is you really are your own person. You are one of many and also none of many. I don't know if that quite makes sense, but I really like that you can be perceived publicly if you want, but also no one will remember you. So if you want to walk down the street and sing, that's fine. They're not gonna think about you ever again. Yes.
It's literally one of my favorite things about living here is you have to try so hard to stand out.
No, it's crazy.
So hard.
Being anonymous is so easy here, and that's a blessing and a curse. But I definitely like how easy it is to be yourself and also blend in. You know what I mean? That duality is a really special thing that I don't think exists in many other places. No. Also, something else I feel like I've learned since living here is apathy. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Which I think is actually kind of a positive thing. Like learning to like really not invest yourself in things that don't concern you or your well-being.
Yeah.
If there is a crazy man on the street, like just keep walking. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't. He'll figure his shit out. I'll figure my shit out. It'll be fine.
We're all on our own paths.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know. It kind of goes along with like the anonymity thing. But just like really being able to like focus on yourself and like really not worry about how others perceive you, because they aren't, honestly. They really just aren't perceiving you. There's too much going on here to like sit down and analyze every single moment of every person's day.
Yeah.
And I love that. You know what I mean? I like how fast paced it is. I really, really do. A lot. Yeah.
Same.
So some special items to me in this apartment, part of like what makes the apartment feel very like home. One of it is this painting up here, and it's actually a piece of fine art. It was a Christmas present, but it's Shakespeare's house in Stratford-upon-Avon. And I mentioned before I was an actor, and I got to visit Shakespeare's house when I was in high school. I like went when I was like 18, I think.
Nice.
And it was like a really, really special experience because I'm really big into Shakespeare too. You know, I really appreciate his influence and style, although let's be fair, he did plagiarize many things, but it's okay, nonetheless, still a creative genius. And I was going through the tour of his house, and I was just like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. And then at the end of the tour, you go out into his garden, and there's all these actors that you can say, I want you to do Rosalind, you know what I mean? Or I want you to do Beatrice. Like, you can give them any, or like, I want you to do this monologue from Love, Slavers, Lost. You know, like, you can ask them to do anything.
Wow.
And they'll know it. Like, they have the whole lexicon memorized. Wow. And so I was being an asshole about it. And I was like, well, what, you know, like trying to ask the obscure, like, questions. And then they were like, well, you seem to know a lot. And I was like, well, I am an actor. And they were like, well, do you want to get on stage right here and do a Shakespearean monologue? And I was like, after I pee my pants, yeah, absolutely. I did not pee my pants, but I did get to perform a Shakespeare monologue at Shakespeare's house. And that was like a really special moment for me. My English teacher was crying. Like, it was a really special thing, like, to do that in front of, like, all my classmates and, like, in front of these actors who I, like, even though I was, like, patronizing them, like, I really respected them, you know? And that just, like, made a huge impact on me. So my godmother, my Aunt Anne, she got me that picture of Shakespeare's house. And it really is just, I like to hang it over my bed because, you know, where I lay my head at night, I feel like it matters, like, what I'm surrounded by. And, yeah, it means a lot to me. And my mom says I have to take very good care of it because it's a very nice piece of art. So I put it where I can never touch it or like accidentally get food on it or something, which could happen. But I also, my books are really, really important to me. And when I first packed for New York, I imagined I could take everything with me. That was impossible. And I had like one whole suitcase of books, and my dad was like, that's not, you have to take like clothes, you know what I mean? And I was like, no, I need my books. But so I ended up like leaving a lot of my books at home or giving them away. But I kept this one called The Underneath by Kathy Appelt. And it's like my very first like big chapter book that I read when I was a kid. And it's so special. It's like all about like Texas folklore, and it involves like the Native Americans who were in Texas, and also like port workers from Houston, like all of these things that I grew up with, like learning about because I grew up in Texas. The animals talk, you know what I mean? Like it's like a really, really special book to me, and I'll never leave it behind anywhere. And it means so much to me. And like, I don't know, I just like, if I'm ever in like a tough place mentally, like I'll give it another read, you know what I mean? And it really like brings me back to like, oh yeah, like this is who I am, like this is how I grew up, this is what X, Y, and Z mean to me. Yeah. And like, this is why I love Texas, you know, like it is a lot of the stuff in this book. So having that like right above my head while I sleep at night is really, really special. And like, I'm just glad that I have that with me, and that it's now been a part of so many different collections. Like it was a part of my high school book collection, my middle school book collection, then my college book collection, my post-college, and now like my New York collection. Like it's just been there with me through so many things. And I honestly don't know how many other things in my apartment I can say like, oh, I've had this since, you know? Yeah. And so yeah, that book is really, really special to me. I love it. I love it. My least favorite thing about living in New York is definitely the vermin problem. I just have had way too many close encounters of the fourth kind, you know what I mean? Like with mice and like roaches and stuff like that. And I know it's just part of living here, but I feel like it's something we need to talk about way more. It's gross and like, I don't know, I've gotten way too comfortable like catching and releasing mice. You know what I mean? I'm like, that's not a skill I really wanted to acquire. But now that I have it, I guess it's useful. Like
now you have a new skill you can put on your CV. You know?
Yeah. I'm sure all the casting directors are really in the market for mouse catcher. But yeah, that's probably my least favorite. And also, I mean, I don't really think it's that dirty of a city, but every time I see poop on the sidewalk, I really am like, who'd it come from? You know, person or dog? I'm really curious. You know what I mean?
You will never know, and when you find out, you're like, I wish I never knew.
Like, I wish I didn't know that. You know what I mean? I really wish I did not know where that came from.
Those are some pretty solid least favorites.
Yeah.
Now, on the other hand, what's your favorite thing?
My most favorite thing about living in New York is that there's always an opportunity, whether it's like some sort of social opportunity, like you want to go out and meet some friends, or you want to go out and meet new people, or there's some sort of work opportunity, whether you need fast cash and like need to go pick up a job at like a comedy club or a restaurant or whatever. There's always those kinds of opportunities, and actually, this is my most favorite thing for realsies, is that people still talk to each other here. Like it's not like weird to talk to strangers for a long time. You know what I mean? I was just in the grocery store the other day, like trying to pick out a thing of pickles, and this like old man was like, "Make sure you check the expiration dates." And I was like, "Thank you. Who's not checking that?" You know what I mean? I was just like, "I will." What's your experience here? Like, what do you mean? And we like got into a whole conversation, and like even I don't know. I really enjoy that people still speak to each other here. Like there's still a sense of community, even if you're all by yourself. And I think that's like such a special thing. I don't think that exists everywhere, you know?
Yeah.
So I really appreciate how open people are to communing.
Yeah.
To fellowship.
I feel like there's like a preconceived notion that New Yorkers are like cold and like they're always fast paced trying to get from like point A to point B, and like sure that's some of the time, but like I talk to so many strangers.
No, I know.
Like people on park benches. I'm just like, hey, how you doing? Like
up,
every Lyft driver I've ever had. I'm too chatty.
No, I love it. And like on the subway, there's like this crazy sense of intimacy that I have never experienced in any other aspect of my life. But like one time I was on the subway and there was this like crazy woman. Like I had my headphones in, but like this crazy woman was like up in my face, and I was just like, focus. You know what I mean? Like do not make eye contact. And then this like random guy who I immediately was like, well, we must be in love. He like kind of like stepped in between me and the crazy lady. We said nothing to each other.
Yep.
She moved away. He sat back down, and we made eye contact. And I was like, and he was like, and I was just like, well, this is the best love story I've ever heard. I'm like, oh my gosh.
The best 5-second love story.
No, and I was like, this is the most intimate thing I've ever done. Like, it was crazy. And eye contact on the subway it's intense. It's intense.
We're trapped in this metal tube together with all these other strangers.
No, it's crazy. It's like, oh man, I love it. No, I love that. I love making eye contact with people on the subway.
That's great. What do you do for fun?
Well, yeah, what do you do? How often do you ride this train? I love that.
You're going to be known as a girlologist.
Yeah, no, I think a lot of my friends, they were like, you're not supposed to do that. Like, you're not supposed to try and make friends on the subway. But then I have other friends who are like, no, like I've hooked up with people on the subway. You know what I mean? They're like, no, it's a club. It's a moving club, a portable club. I'm like, oh, okay. There are different perceptions, different strokes for different.
And you're just like kind of the middle between.
I like to find the middle ground.
Yeah.
I like to find the middle ground.
Yeah. So you have just the intense eye contact love stories, not the full physical affairs.
Yeah. No touching ever. We never cross that line. But the emotional lines we cross are out of this world.
That's great.
Yeah. So first impressions, when I landed, I remember being like, I feel like I should feel more overwhelmed, but I was just kind of like, okay, I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
Cool, let's do it. And then my next impression was that my mom would not make it here. She tried to get into a fight with a lady in the Bronx at Home Depot. It was like, this is not the borough to be doing this shit in. Do not, Mom, please step down. But she's an Aries and a redhead, so I get it. You know, it makes sense. But I remember when we first like got to like my neighborhood, my mom was like, okay, like, I don't know what you signed up for. And I was like, no, this is perfect. Like, this is exactly where I need to be. And I feel that, you know what I mean? It reminds me a lot of my neighborhood that I lived in while I was in college.
Oh,
the
nice.
3rd Ward in Houston is like this very historic Houston neighborhood.
Okay.
And very similar vibes, Harlem and the 3rd Ward. So I was like, I felt very comfortable. I was like, okay, I've been in this place before. Like, I know, I feel like I know how to operate here. And I remember when we walked into my apartment, obviously my first impression was, oh my God, it's so small. I was like, oh, this is way smaller than I thought it was. But now that I'm here, I'm like, no, this is the perfect size. And honestly, for New York, I'm like, this shit is huge.
Yeah.
Like, this is like a fantastic little apartment. If I could pick this up and put it in, like, you know, the Lower East Side, I'd be thrilled. Of course, that's impossible and it costs so much money.
Yeah, it probably costs like double.
Which is insane. But I remember being like, oh, this is small, and then I remember being like, I forgot to order a mattress. My mom was so pissed. She was so angry, but we slept on the floor. And I just remember being like filled with like a sense of like anticipation. I think more so than hope, like more like anticipation and like I was just like, I can do this, you know what I mean? Like, I feel ready to like take this on. Yeah. And this apartment is like the first step in like really like conquering a city, you know what I mean? And I just remember moving in and really feeling like lots of creativity, lots of hope, and lots of excitement about what was to come. And I was like trying to visualize where everything would go. And my first impressions were small. Okay, like I can work with this. This will do, you know? And then eventually, like, oh my gosh, I really haven't made enough shade up here. This is great.
What would be your advice to anybody thinking about moving here?
I think definitely working with a realtor is like a really wise choice.
I didn't pay her to say that.
No, she did not. I really do believe it, because we were looking at, like, when my friend and I were first thinking about moving up here, it's just me by myself. We didn't end up living together. But when we first started looking for apartments, we were using like Street Easy and like Rent Cafe and like all these different websites. And it was just too overwhelming. You know what I mean? Like, and I had no idea like what any of it meant. I was like, what is Yonkers? Like, I don't understand. And I was like, well, Yonkers seems great. And it's like, you're not even in the city anymore. You know, like I was like, so I would say like having somebody here to be your boots on the ground helps a lot. And like, it's worth the extra cash. Like, it's worth like I don't know. I think it's totally worth the convenience. But I've always felt that way. I'm like, I'll always pay for convenience. You know what I mean? Like, it
really is like the convenience factor.
Exactly, right? And just like, if you don't know anything about the city or the neighborhoods, like, you need to work with somebody who does. Yeah. So I would say that is a really good piece of advice. And I would also say you actually really do only need 2 big suitcases when you move. It is the greatest city in the world, and it is the center of the universe, and you can get anything you need up here. So like, you just don't need all the shit that you think you do need. Yeah. I learned that the hard way. I really learned that the hard way. United and I were not friends when I took my flight up here. I honestly feel like moving to New York, I've become a lot less materialistic. Mostly because, like, no, I can't afford a $4 kombucha today. You know what I mean? But also, like, just because, like, I don't have as much stuff, and, like, I value the things that I do have more, you know? And that, I like it.
I do find it funny because I know plenty of people are going to be like, yeah, you got rid of stuff because New York's so tiny.
No, that wasn't even it. I mean, yes, there was like an extra fee for another checked bag, but also, well, like, my apartment is not that little, honestly. It's really a good
You have
size.
A good amount of space between your furniture.
I know, I feel right. I'm not like shimmying between
sometimes you
things.
Do have to shimmy,
yeah, and my bathroom's not in my kitchen. You know what I mean? Like, it's a great size apartment.
A little changing area outside the bathroom.
Exactly. No, it was more just like, you're starting a new life. You're starting a new chapter, and like, you just don't need all that shit. You know what I mean?
It's very cleansing to just be
it's very cleansing.
What can I bring with me?
And I feel like New York is very much baptism by fire. You know what I mean? And I'm into that. You know, I'm into baptism and fire. Like, I love them both. I would say that if you're considering moving to New York, or you're dreaming of moving to New York, do it. And don't like wait till you have enough saved up, and don't like wait until there's like the right time in your job, or like wait until, you know, like there's no wait, like just do it. You know what I mean? And there's not gonna be a right time. There's not gonna be like a perfect amount to save up. Save money, but like, you know, but like there's not gonna be like a perfect time for all of this to line up and like it all works out perfectly. you just need to do it and like jump into it.
Mm-hmm.
And New York will reward you for that. I think like the city like recognizes, definitely the city has a spirit of its own, and like I think it recognizes like those who do, and you should move here. It's the best city in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And it's full of opportunities, like I mentioned earlier, and like full of people that are interested in knowing you just because you're here.
Yeah.
You know, and that's like a really beautiful thing. So I would say if you're considering, do it. Absolutely. And don't worry about the space. Like, don't worry about like whatever. I don't know. Even if you're like, well, I don't have anyone to move with, there's a bajillion people here who need roommates. Like, I have a friend who, he really wanted to move here, so he just moved. He just like did an Airbnb for like 2 months until he found his apartment, which is like, it works. You know what I mean? Like I said, the city will reward you for acting.
Where there's a will, there's a way.
Exactly. So I would say, like, if you're thinking about it, absolutely do it. And, you know, don't hold back. Like, and even if you're like, well, I don't know what I want to do, like I need to move to New York City with a goal in mind. Like, bitch, no, you don't. Like, there's like the goals will make themselves available to you at the right time.
Yeah.
And right. Like it happens.
I worked in tech when I moved here. So
like, you know what I mean? Like, what's going on? Like, I have only been here for like 6 months, but already I'm like, well, I've already done like 6 jobs. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what's going on.
Again, a Renaissance woman.
Yeah,
you know?
a woman of many talents and many mistakes. But yeah, I would say if you're considering, like, just go for it. Take the leap, and like, your faith will hold strong for sure.
Solid advice.